Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Miles Trial. This is your host, Saturn, for today's episode, and thank you guys for tuning in. This is a special program brought to you by the New Federal State of China. Today, as we are continuing to cover Miles Guo's trial. Miles is currently being trialed at the Southern District Court of New York. He is facing 12 counts of financial charges and also one count of RICO. And also, he has never pled guilty so far to these charges. Today, actually, we have just been wrapping up one of the witnesses from yesterday, and there is also one new witness that has appeared in court today as well. Today is a regular schedule from 9:30 to 2:45 p.m., so it is a relatively short day compared to some of the more extended days where we are ending at 5 p.m. Next week, the 2 days for the trial are ending in 5 p.m. and tomorrow is also another regular scheduled day ending at 2:45 p.m. So today, as we talk about the content from the trial, it will more or less be complete, as opposed to yesterday when we had some content, a little bit of content left over, which we will kind of recap as we go through the first witness of today, who has already began direct examination by the prosecution team as of yesterday. So with that being said, let us bring on Ava and Feder to the show. It is so good to have you guys here on the show again. I know yesterday we did a show we talked about actually three cases, right? It was a very fast-paced show, I would say, very information-packed. And today is going to be much lighter because we don't have to give a lot of backgrounds on the three cases. And I know, Ava did such a good job on explaining the background for the cases. So today, first of all, thank you guys for coming on. And just to kick things off, I have not asked this question for a while. How is Miles and everybody at the court today?
So you want me? Go ahead.
Right, Miles. Miles is doing great. As every time I see him, he's always given the same level of energy that really super contagious, and for everyone, his energy, his smiles, and a lot of interaction today with the audience before the course started. He was pointing at. Doing like a hand gesture and then smiling and asking people to calm down because some fellow fighters are gone emotional, and then he's comforting people, and then he's very, very gentle, and he's smiling and friendly, and we were trying to read the signs. There's a message in his signs he's trying to say, but we were just all guessing. It was really fun, this interaction and to see how well he's doing right now, and then it's also to close at the end, and we're all really looking forward to the last day of the trial. And he's wearing a dark, if I remember correctly, he's wearing a dark gray suit with a silver tie. So it's a
and white shirt.
Really, yes, about white shirt, really energized and looking amazing today.
So you mentioned that he was trying to calm some of the supporters, some of the members down, NFSC members down. I think it speaks to how emotional some of our members would get, looking at Miles, given how much he's done for taking down the CCP, and also at a time where Miles is facing Miles is in trial, and he's also thinking of others first, trying to calm people down, trying to give people the support while they're there to support him.
Yes,
spiritually.
They're supporting each other, and a lot of people are first time seeing him too. So they're with the excitement, with all the anticipation, and seeing him and finally meeting him in this kind of special circumstance. It's very understandable. People getting really emotional, and
I think a lot of people get emotional for one reason is because this guy looks like he just walked out of like Sharon Nezaland Hotel, literally. But we know, and through the hand gesture, in the morning, when we entered the court, he's already there. He kind of through hand gesture, we were guessing that it takes him 5 hours to get there. To meet us there, that he has to start, his day is way earlier than anybody. And then every day after the court, he has to go back to MDC, and then he has to meet the counsel, and then converse, preparing for the next day. And this trial, if it's hard on us by just sitting there and watching, it's going to be even harder on the counsel's team and on Miles Guo. A lot of people burst into tears is because they can connect the person who's sitting there, that's just as you described, it was so energetic, it was so high spirit, and has such a great vibes that are contagious and affecting all of us and give us the confidence from inside out. We didn't expect to see a Miles school like that. That's why I couldn't think about all this journey that he has gone through, and he's still holding his hand high. And he can give the extra things into all of us and say, that's okay, we're here together and we're in this fight together. So I think a lot of people are so touched, and I witnessed many fellow fighters sitting behind me, they just couldn't help, even though Miles School said quiet, keep calm and just keep calm and thank you, and really from his bottom of his heart. I think people are just hard to control their emotions. Yeah.
Yes, connect to what Ava said about his spirituality and all that. The one sign, the gesture I read to my understanding that he was saying that he was doing exercise and running around
That's right, yeah.
but with handcuffs on. He was doing exercise, but he had the handcuffs on. But then he said, I remember he saying it's okay. He said he pointed at his head, he pointed at his heart, and he says there's no handcuffs. So what I read is that in his mind, in his heart, there's no handcuff as long as there's he doesn't.
He's free.
He's free.
Yeah, he's free.
This
even
is
though
just
yes.
This he's free of the handcuff, and doesn't exist in his mind and his heart. So this is my guess, but I would love to verify once I'm able to talk to him, right?
That's right. Yeah, verify. And once just want to share this with the audience. The audience may not know. And Miles School, not today, but the previous days, like he in the middle, like after the lunch, after lunch break, and usually if he could, he arrived the court earlier than the whistle blower followers entering the court. He's actually standing and just waiting for us. At multiple occasions, he's waiting for us, and once we all sit seated, and then he will seat, and then he might give us I remember once he said 5. He said push up. He was doing the push-up during the break, and he put a hand 5 and then put a 0 because we thought maybe 50 push-ups, and then he did 2 zeros, 500 push-up during the half an hour lunch break, when all of us are dining, and he's basically back there and doing push-ups. And of just another information you may not know, in MDC, Miles School did plank for 35 hours straight. And the next person that can do the longest time in MDC, I think it's 3 minutes. So everybody is in awe to the length of time that in terms of Miles School's physical strength. And so anyway, through the trial, we saw his physical strengths, and particularly his spiritual strengths that really shining through throughout from day 1 to today, day 24.
Yeah, and I would imagine it's definitely very difficult for him to do, especially with the trial going on. And most importantly, I mean, it's the MDC, right? It's his environment that he's in. And the fact that, he has been there for such a long time, and he's still able to be, so spirited, and also keep his physical strength up. I think that's very incredible. Right. Especially, I do know that the dietary, I heard he only eats 1 meal a day now, and I think I noticed that when he does attend the trial, he drinks water towards the end of the trial, just so he doesn't need to take any bathroom breaks or stuff like that.
Yeah, no one would miss the food in MDC. I'm sure.
Absolutely. So I mean, with that being said, let's get started with the show today in regards to the contents of the trial. Ava, do you want to give the audience a little bit overview about the first witness for today?
Okay, yeah, sure. The first witness is actually continuing on from yesterday. So yesterday, Feather and I left earlier, so we did not witness the beginning of the direct questioning by the government. So so this witness continued on this morning, and we finished. Right after, a little bit after, shortly after lunch today. And this witness is from a consulting firm named Brattle Consulting, who was basically retained by the government. They were first approached by the government in 2023, last year, March, and then they've did a lot of work, very, according to the witness, very intensive work earlier this year, particularly earlier this year. So they are providing, the witness name is Paul Hinton. Basically, he is a chief. I understand he's a chief, or if not the boss of this consulting firm. And they specialize in analyzing financial data, come up with financial reporting and those kind of things. So that is why the government basically hired his firm. And basically, my understanding through the testimony is the government give them a huge amount of data and documents, just dump and say, hey, zip through this documents and then identify them. Okay, so first of identify them, whether they are the bank accounts, and then give them, so the government give them specific instructions in terms of what category they need to organize and sorting those material.
So they don't do that independently? The government has instructed them on specific things?
Almost every step of the way.
Wow.
So we felt like this although they're retained for their expertise, in data analysis and kind of sipping through a large amount of information, but I left an impression, and Feather can add in, is they are hand-holding. The government is hand-holding basically everything, okay? And even including the color of the boxes on their diagram. And the government is making these changes last night. This information came through during the cross today. But we will get to more for the details before you can add on some of the overview.
Right. On the overview for today, the impression, the first part of of this witness was the direct examination, and then a lot of charts, being shown to us, and a lot of details, and a lot of transactions and records, a lot of statements, verifying each transaction, those banking statements.
What do you mean by verifying?
They're trying to make sure that the chart they created is accurate. That they have let's say they're tracing down this one transaction from this bank account to another bank account. They pull out this banking statement from that bank or from that one bank account to show, this is the transaction. The official document from that bank account that matches the one that the chart they created. So the chart is that's the one that they created, but then there's the official documents from the bank that they verify with. So make sure that the chart is accurate based on the legal documents, right? Okay.
And these were specifically picked out by the government for them to include.
Every single thing is picked out by the government. But what I learned later on, there's like a 681 account in total, and that's not all included in the chart they created that showed in direct examination.
And so first of all, give audience. So let's talk about the chart. What the charts entail. What it is on the chart.
Yeah, I'll talk about a little bit more about the general impression again. So government provides all the records. All the changes and everything is directed by the government. And then the last change made was last night. And they work a lot on the chart. This person learned a lot from the chart. That who Miles is, and then everything about the entities and stuff, and then this is through the chart, through working with government, he learned about this case, and he has no other involvement rather than just making the chart with the government.
I see. So this individual, all they really did was follow the instructions set forth by the government, who has employed them for their services, and created just charts instead of and from what I'm getting at, there's no analysis of anything financial. It was just kind of a collection of data and then putting it onto a chart, representing it through a chart, correct?
They do. I'm not gonna. This is just words, right? They use, but they say they do verifying the transactions. I don't qualify that as analysis, because analysis is you probably would have a recommendations at the end, or you would paint a picture. But this is truly just a flow charts. Just give you an idea what. Oh, by the way, I have to mention this. So in order for this kind of a work providing to the government, they charge the government $2 million.
$2 million.
When I heard that number and compare what I saw today, that what they basically showed the jury and the court, those flow charts and diagrams, yes, they could bill $2 million, because the question was asked how much you paid, and he said we have accrued expense, so we don't know how much of the $2 million his firm has already collected, but that's not important. But what's important, and just give you a volume, because those information actually came through from yesterday's direct questioning. So I read the transcript last night, so I can give you a little bit idea just by giving you the number. So in terms of volume of what I mean, a dump that the government gave it to the firm. So. So according to this firm, the Paul Hinton, the consultant, they actually analyzed 200,000 transactions. Okay?
200,000.
Yes, and this is for 72 banks. So they look at the bank statements and everything, and altogether there's 2,173 bank accounts, and 119 different entities represent 450 bank accounts. Okay, 119, and then they a little bit give a categorized understanding of identified accounts and then processed accounts. Okay, so this is the testimony came through. They say first, as I said, they've got vast amount of paperwork, and then they have to identify according to the government categories. Okay, the government give them specific direction in terms of what to look for. Okay, and they even set up those definition. Okay, so what should sit at the family office? What entities? Okay, so they set up all those categories by the government. So government give them the specific definition and direction. So then they have to inform the government what they find, because the government did not even bother. I guess this is too voluminous, too tedious kind of a work for them. So that's why they hired a $2 million consulting firm doing those tedious work and going through all those tons of pile of money identified accounts. So this is the identified accounts. Okay, so the identified 20 accounts for Rule of Law, 49 for GTV, 85 for Farms, and 82 for G Club and Crane, and 27 Himalaya Exchange. So these are the identified. And then in the subset of those identified, they give all those identified accounts and information back to the government, and government give them further instructions, say, oh, I need you to process this. Process mean that they would have to log in, create a spreadsheets, move all those information on the spreadsheets if they are not already on the spreadsheets. Okay, so they have to use the number reader identifier, whatever, to export those numbers on the spreadsheets, making sure the format is the same, and they have to create a database out of those government specified processed account. So at the end, they also the process account is a lot less. So 25 from the Lamp Capital, one of the entities, 3 account from Greenwich Land, 55 from farm accounts for the Himalaya farm accounts all over the world, and 52 from the family office entity. Okay, so this is what they've mentioned about total numbers. So you can tell this is a huge amount of documents that they have went through, but they kind of funneled down to a kind of a manageable workload, and then according to the specific request of the government, that they put it in a format that they presented to jury today, which is diagram, which they tends to show inflow and outflow of bank accounts. Okay, so these are the entities. First of all, they say these are the fraud scheme, right? So on the indictment, if you remember, there's 4 entities was particularly highlighted. That is GTV, right? And that is Farm Loan, so Himalaya Farm Program, and G Club, and then Himalaya Exchange, 4 of them, right? So that is why they identify all those entities that related to them, and they want to show what the money coming out and where the money went. Okay, so through a lot of the direct, they trying to carve out an impression that Miles Guo and Miles Guo's family members has misused the fund, which is supposed to be membership money or investment money, but they moved the money to some to a company called Lamp Capital, or to a yard company, or to car related expenses. So this is what they trying to leave an impression for the jury. So they spent 77 minutes doing that. So it is actually, I would have to say, pretty boring, and I reached to a point that I'm starting doodling, because that's not me. I usually I was a good student throughout my life. So, but reached to a point that it's really hard to follow. I mean, I've seen a lot of people, even other fellow fighters, even feather at me. We would start drawing things like not paying attention. So that gets me
curious, because you did say these are inflow and outflow charts. Yeah. So these are charts, right? Diagrams with different cells. Like this is my understanding of what it would look like, and that gets me curious is the fact that you said it's tedious and it's boring. Was the charts made up in a way that it looked confusing or were they easy to follow? Because from what I'm getting at is they were not as easy to follow and straightforward as they should be, because I believe if I were from the prosecution perspective, if I were to say paint the picture about these charges, right? I would kind of have to make it more complex with the way the money flows. So is that the case about how the diagrams looked?
Do you want to answer the question?
Oh, I have tried to draw some of the charts. I don't know if you can see, but I try my best to draw. Like there's so many charts that I cannot keep up. I give up. Like for each chart, you have the bank account from this XYZ company bank account, and then to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. bank accounts, and then the money that went to the different accounts, and also the dates that they went, the dates of the outflows. So they put dates for everything and the dates for the transaction, and then in each account, like it connects to that might not only connect to one account, it connect to this and that. So there's like I remember for G Club operation LLC, there was like 4 boxes presenting that bank account. I know there's like a lot of bank accounts, but then there was 4 boxes for Hamilton as well. And with the way they were put, there's more than how do you say?
So the whole chart is complicated. It's one entity, but they actually made a 4, 5, 6 boxes for each entity. They wanted to make it really hard for you to read, right? Because the font is so small. Just think about an A4 letter, right? How much information can you cram in that space? Is they don't have to list 4 times the same entities, like for example, G Club Operation LLC, right?
Right.
But they chose to.
Oh, so that makes more sense, because if you think about it, there's only so many entities, right,
That's
related
right.
to this case.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, 5 or 6 entities on one sheet, that's 5 to 6 cells in total. No matter how many transactions there has been, there should really only be 5 to 6
That's
cells.
correct.
Yeah.
And from what it seems like, they intentionally repeated some of the entities into different cells, and then I guess repeated some of the flows.
Right. And each of the chart or each of the company, and then all the chart, the title was the select flows. Let's say this company is the voice of VOG, and it says select flows. And let's say it's some other charts. It's at the select flows of G Club and Crane, the select flow and expenses by G Club. So it's all selected, pre-selected by the government. Also, for when Ava mentioned about this whole expenses and the outflow and inflow that come down to like a tunnel, like they really conclude that the source of funds, how much went to GTV, how much went to farms, how much went to G Clubs, how much went to Himalaya Exchange. It all concluded that there's a 1.3 billion, and then they made 2 charts to show one that's like a spread chart that from like a tree, from that one branch. There's different branches from one source of fund, and there's one that's accumulative, that goes from like a timeline. That builds up like this, so like it's like a linear way to show where how much the fund raised, and then and through which time period it was added up.
It was the same information, just presented in a different chart, so they can charge $2 million on the bill.
And it was very interesting, that last question he was asking. Oh, so you can see, right? It started with VOG, which is the first project or first investment they initiated, and then it's the farms, and then you see with the time with the chart they created, you can go to G Clubs with the timeline, and it goes to Himalaya Exchange. So they're trying to show with the time they're building this thing up that become this whole scheme of like a fraud scheme with all this money adding up with the time with the entities they created. So you can see this chart is going up, and then they really put it this way to show, see, this is, or at least
that's what they're trying to present to the jury.
Exactly.
But it doesn't stand anything, because they didn't prove anything. That's why when I'm doodling, I put the quote, because this is one of the things that they said. It's beautifully color-coded sheets. And then I want to finish the sentence, which does not prove anything. So during the cross, our defense basically asked, okay, so this is very complicated, but it could be really simple, okay? So is it, instead of 4 boxes, you could just use 1, right? Yes, that's what witness testified. Okay, so it is the prosecutor that asked you to put 4, is that right? Yes. And
Wow.
the same with the crane, there are other boxes, there's 6 of them. They could just be in one, okay?
For the crane company.
The crane company. And the other one is for the Hamilton, they have 5 boxes. So it could come down to 1. So 4 plus 6 plus 5, 15 boxes. It could be replaced by 3 boxes, which can clean out all the busyness and the complexity in that sheet.
So 15 boxes, and I'm guessing that's not even all the boxes on the sheets.
No,
Correct.
no, there's a lot of sheets. This is just one of the busy one because the font is really small, giving so many boxes.
Call it a
and-
master sheet.
I guess my
Exactly.
next question from this would really be, because they are replicating so many boxes, are there any discrepancies with the dates on there? Because
yeah, there are tons.
there has to be,
We,
right?
we get to that. So
Okay.
that's why the cross is very effective. We used a similar amount of time as the direct, but we get down to pretty much everything, like pretty much the data, that the charts. But then I just want to finish the question because the cross, our defense said, did they instruct you the format of the diagram? Yes. They did instruct
Wow.
even the format. Did they even pick the color, tell you that Hamilton is yellow? Yes. So they get down to the nitty-gritty detail in terms of what you see today is basically dictated by the government. And also they confirmed, as Feather said, the title of various sheets is called selected investments. And this this witness confirmed it's not all, okay? So the government only needs you to paint a picture that good enough. Everything, you don't have to put it on there. So it's already selected, it's confirmed. Okay, so that is why we say you can't prove anything. This is the best you can get is beautifully color-coded Excel sheets that full of numbers and typos, because we find a typo in when the cross. So first of all, because without the visual cue, it's hard for me to describe it. But I want you to think about this. So this flow charts only described, for example, $1 million coming from this bank account, and then going to another bank account, and the other bank account going out for 7 millions to the other companies, and then every dollar, it has a time frame. Okay, so it has a brackets of time frame. Say this $1 million happened on, let's say, May 1st, 2021 to June 1st, 2021. Okay, let's hypothetically say that's the brackets of this 1 million. Okay, let's change the number, 10 million. Let's say 10 million from company A to company B in May to June 2021, and this company B then moved 7 million to another company, but this time. In the brackets is July 2021. Okay, so now the question is, the July 2021 moved out, July 2021 and June 1st, there is about 2 months difference, right? So how do you know any of the time million actually counted for, how much of the time million coming from A to B actually counted for within the 7 million from B to C? Because the time is not overlapping.
Right.
Even though it's overlapping, you still cannot. And the witness confirmed that. Without doing a tracing on dollar amount, he cannot verify the dollar, whether it's counted for the other. Because remember, this is a selected form. There's other banking transactions happening outside of what we just see, right? So you can't explain where the money coming, whether this money is coming from A or even coming from B. It could be coming from D, we just don't know, right? So this is exactly was confirmed by the witness in today's testimony, and it's crucial because this was used again and again to basically undermining pretty much almost every chart.
Right. So basically, without going through the dates by date of each
Yeah.
outflow, let's say like for example, the one we saw is the farm select flows.
Yeah.
So the dates that stated of the outflows are before the inflows that's indicated,
That's right.
indicating the chart. But the arrow comes down to this like it spreads like this.
Yeah.
So it shows that this inflow, this outflow is from that inflow.
That's right.
You know what I
so this
mean?
is a great example. This is opposite with just what I just said. What I just said, the inflow has a date gap between the outflow, right? So the money has not even happened yet, outflow. But the other one is reverse.
It's going this way.
Yeah, it's reverse. The other one is they want to trying to say, hey, Miles Guo took money, okay? Miles Guo took money and his apartment in Connecticut is using the members' money. So they're showing, okay, this is ACA, okay? ACA money, they moved 32 million to a law firm. Okay, so that's November 20 and November 12th to November 16th. Okay, that's the date for 32. They show a flow, a diagram, an arrow. And then the law firm distributed 3 different money. One is 3 million, 5 million, 5 million to a Miles Guo family-related entities. Okay, Greenwich Woodland and Landscape. But the dates, guess what the dates? The dates is actually prior to November. The dates are actually in August, in October that year. So it doesn't
match up.
It doesn't match up. It should not be presenting this way. But then the witness say, well, I'm just presenting the outflow of the money from that bank accounts to the bank accounts. So you have to read the fine prints. Okay? So in this particular case, if our cross lawyer does not pointing out on the date, people would have an impression already. Okay, there's something wrong because everything is going to those companies. Yeah, that's the sequential. Yeah, because the arrow you kind of a trigger you like thinking, oh, this is time sequential, but it's not right. It's absolutely does not mean that. It only means this bank account moved some money. It does not tell you when. And when you apply the time, then you would know it's completely different story that that was telling by the government.
Right, and just to clarify a little bit, right, I just want to make sure that the audience is able to digest this part of the information because I think this is very crucial. So let's say I give Feder $10 and then she spends $10 later. That's the impression they're trying to.
That's
put,
correct.
Right? But the thing is we find out later that she's
spent
already spent.
Exactly, she's already
I
spent.
spent $10.
That's
I
the
bought
second
something
case.
from
Right.
Ava.
Yeah.
But then before you gave me the $10.
Right, so
Yeah,
you already
I
spent
gave her.
before.
And
you
you
I
don't
could
know-
also give her
And-
money.
And you don't know how much money I already have.
That's right.
Right.
Right?
I could give you $40 the week prior,
Yeah.
right? Return what I borrowed from you,
Yeah,
right?
and I bought
Earlier.
something, and then you give me $10.
Yes, and then he moved the $10. He gave someone else the $10, and then the government trying to say the $10 he gave out is the $10 from you. That's not evidence, right? Everybody figured that out.
And it was testified by the witness that you
Yeah.
can't prove that
You
unless
can't prove that.
Unless you go to the detail each the fund tracing one by one transaction.
Yeah.
But none of that work is done also
Yeah.
because it's not directed by the government.
So just to quickly recap again for some of the viewers who tuned in late, so what we had just explained is some of the evidence that is brought up by the government's witness today, just in an attempt to paint the picture that Miles took the investors' money to pay for certain luxurious objects or other amenities. But they did a poor job at that because of the fact that we just explained that some of the purchases or some of the transfers that they had indicated took place prior to some of the earlier transfers.
Yeah, and also the other example they brought a expense summary. This is to do with a yacht company. That my understand the yacht company is probably did some service worker or service provider for some of the yacht. So on the charts they showed there's 5 different payments at a different time, and the total is 3.9 million. But then there's a typo. Because the total 3.9 million was straddled, the period indicating on the charts is from 2020 all the way to 2022. Okay, and however, when we doing the cross, because this is a total, so you have to add in it's indicating the other sub expenses all coming, coming aggregated together, right? So